say. Anybody who's back at my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about my 6-month update. As of a few days from now, I think when I either post this or like right after I post it, it's gonna be my 6-month anniversary, surgiversary I should say. Super excited. Not too much of an update, I guess, since I just did the video a couple days ago. I'm at 83 pounds lost, which is fantastic, but nothing big news there. I'm still just working as hard as I can, but of course 10 pounds is not going to drop in a week. So anybody who's interested in getting the surgery, I just wanted to go over some of the requirements that I had to do for my insurance. I know that some surgeons do have their own requirements even if you are paying out of pocket, so you might run into some of these as well, whether you're paying with your insurance or you're just paying out of pocket. Sorry about that. My dogs. The first requirement that I had to meet in order to get the surgery was I had to meet with a dietitian 4 times. It had to be like once a month. So at minimum, I couldn't have my surgery but for the 4 months. So every month I had to go see the dietitian, but the good thing about that, with the dietitian, my surgeon actually had 2 dietitians in the same office as him, and their office is in Johns Creek, and I live like an hour away from that. And I didn't want to drive an hour every single month before my surgery. So my dietitian would actually call me for 3 months. The first month I was already there to see my surgeon, so that I met with her right after. And then for the next 3 months she just called me. I didn't have to meet her in person again until before my surgery. She asked me kind of like what I would be eating. And there are a couple of rules that you have to follow with VSG before and after, just to get your body kind of acclimated to that. And I'll talk to you guys about that in just a second. Alright, so after the dietitian, what I had to do was I actually had to get my blood work done. They gave me a piece of paper and they sent me to LabCorp, and I just did my blood work, and the lady that actually signed me in had gotten my same surgery with my same surgeon, so we talked about that for a couple of minutes. But the piece of paper that my surgeon gave me, at least, it gave them all the information they need, so as soon as I was done taking the test, they went ahead and sent it to my surgeon for me, so I didn't have to worry about doing any of that. So the third thing that I had to do, I had to meet with a psychologist, and she had a bunch of questions to ask me about, you know, my mental health, and I do struggle with depression and anxiety, so I did tell her that, and I was still okay to get the surgery. Their main focus was just to make sure that, like, you don't depend on food with your emotions. And what I mean by that is, like, are you an emotional eater? If you're sad, do you eat? If you're bored, do you eat? Because the psychologist actually told me, and it makes a lot of sense in my head, I'm not really an emotional eater, but people that are emotionally attached to food, if something happens, like something really sad in your life, you can actually go into a pretty deep depression after surgery because you can't physically ingest as much food as you could before. So if you're kind of a binge eater, or if you are an emotional eater, that is something to talk to either a therapist or a psychologist about beforehand, just to make sure that it is something that you'd be okay with. Yeah, so I was never a binge eater or anything. It was just whenever I ate, it was just bad food. So she didn't think I would struggle with like emotional eating after the surgery, but it actually did kind of affect me a little bit. Because I think I'm more emotionally attached to food than I would like to say that I am. I'm not an emotional eater. I don't just eat for the heck of it. But it does bring me happiness. When I say that, I mean, like, before my surgery, I mean, I love food. I do feel like I'm addicted to food. I just don't feel like I turn to that emotionally. But I do remember, you know, before surgery, anytime and every time I would go out, you know, like, the different smells in the restaurant just got me happy, and like seeing your food come out, and honestly seeing how much came with it, because it's like, oh yeah, I get to eat all of this food and it's one meal. Side note, something that I've found out with the surgery is how much Americans eat is actually way too much. But anyways, so now that I can only put a certain amount in my body, every time that the food comes out, it's more calculated than emotional. Like, okay, I'm only gonna be able to eat a taco and a half. Should I, at this point, order like a side, eat something by myself? Should I share with my husband, maybe to save some money? Do I want leftovers for tomorrow? Things like that. Things that I never would have thought to think of before, because usually before my surgery, I never had leftovers. I never shared. If you came near my food, you were getting stabbed with a fork. You were. Don't come near my food. Ever. So the fourth thing that they wanted me to do as a requirement is I had to go to a PreOp class at my surgeon's location, and it was an all-day class of basically what to expect, what you can and cannot eat before and after, and you do have a PreOp diet. I'll talk about that in a second, but it goes over kind of what you can eat and what you can't eat pre-op and post-op. It's very important, and I'm probably going to do a whole nother video on that because it is a little complicated and it is like pretty in-depth, so I can go into that. I know that some surgeons out there don't make you do a pre-diet, or their pre-diet is different or longer or shorter or whatever. I'll get into it in a little bit. But for the pre-op class, it just went over anything and everything we needed to know, what was going to be happening the day of surgery, what we needed to do before we even came in. It talked about, I mean, they answered a lot of questions that we had that maybe we weren't able to like answer before. For me, I was a smoker beforehand. I actually had to quit smoking to get the surgery, and I didn't know that when you quit smoking for the surgery, you had to quit, period. Never smoke again or your stomach will split open. That is real. So great thing came out of it. I stopped smoking, but in the end, it's better that way. Anyways, so then after the pre-op class, it was an all-day thing, and then the hospital that I got the surgery at was actually directly across the street from my surgeon's office. So right after the pre-op class, they told us everything that we were going to need to know. We actually had to drive over to the hospital just so that they knew that we could find it. But not only that, there were two different hospitals that it could be at, and like half of my pre-op class went to like one hospital and half of us went to the other. So they wanted to make sure that all of us could find our way to where we needed to be. I think the time that I took the class was like a week before my surgery. So they were just trying to get everything in our heads of what we needed to know. So when I drove over to the hospital right after the pre-op class, we went and we spoke to actually the nurses that were going to be taking care of us, the anesthesiologist who is going to be assisting us. Basically the nurses were great. They answered all of my questions. They just went over what I needed to do beforehand, the day of, things like that. So then the fifth and final thing that I had to do as a requirement for my surgery was the dreaded pre-op diet. Anybody and everybody that you speak to that has ever had the surgery done will tell you the worst part of the entire experience was the pre-op diet. Pre-op diet was the worst thing ever. It was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do because I was on a 2-week pre-op diet. I'm gonna be honest, I probably should have been on it a lot longer than I was, but they told me minimum 2 weeks, so I did minimum 2 weeks. But basically the first week that they had you, so like 2 weeks before your surgery, it was the first week of your pre-op diet, you were only allowed, I believe it was 900 calories a day. And if you are, you know, searching, looking into VSG, I'm hoping that you understand calories, that's not a lot of calories. What they had you eating like wasn't a lot at all. So for the first 2 weeks before my diet, I was absolutely starving. But the first week was just 900 calories, and then the week before, 7 days leading up to my surgery, I was only allowed to be on a liquid diet. That was so hard because I have a full-size stomach. I am starving, and the only thing that I can have is liquid. It was absolutely miserable. My poor husband would sit there and like be eating Zaxby's while I wasn't allowed chicken noodle soup, but I was allowed like the broth. like a couple days before, so I was literally just sipping on a bowl of broth. The only advice that I can give you about that is like warm liquids help so much. It helps keep you full. But not only that, I went to sleep early like every single day because I just didn't want to stay up until 10 o'clock being starving. So I would go to bed at like 10 and like cut out 2 hours of hunger because it was so bad. I'll kind of go over real quick what they wanted us to do. I don't want to make this video like too long because I know not everybody is interested in getting the surgery. This is more informative for anybody who is looking into getting the surgery. But the day of, they told me that I was gonna have to take a shower, but I know I wasn't allowed to use any scented body wash. I was only allowed to use like a plain bar of soap. I had to clean in my belly button because they told me that's where they like extracted the extra stomach from. So you had to clean your belly button. You had to wash your entire body with a bar of soap. I think you were allowed to shampoo and condition your hair, but I know that I wasn't allowed to do like anything else. I wasn't allowed to shave. I wasn't allowed to put on deodorant. You're not allowed to have any jewelry. So I left my wedding ring, my glasses, everything that I needed at home. You're not allowed to leave the facility by yourself. You're not allowed to drive home. They really told me that I needed was a baggy shirt and baggy pants to wear after, and that was it. So I got there, and the first thing that I did after checking in was they weighed me. Like I've told you guys, I was 339, and they just kind of got me set up. It moved really fast after I was already like in the back room getting ready. So we got back there, and my nurse was taking care of me. She was going over, you know, all the pre-op stuff, everything that I need to know, what type of anesthesia I was going to be using. I met my doctor, my surgeon, in case I had any last minute questions. I also met the anesthesiologist again, just to make sure I didn't have any other questions. And it was a really quick procedure. I was out for I think 30 minutes, and the second I opened my eyes, the nurse was like, "Let's get up and walk." Like, what? You're telling me I'm not even have my eyes fully open yet? I have to get up and walk? And they made me walk around for I think it was like 10 minutes, and I was like on the verge of passing out. I woke up in so much discomfort. I always thought that I would wake up with like my stomach hurting, or like maybe a feeling of like I ate too much or like something, but I never once experienced any pain with my stomach. The only pain that I had was like gas pain, because they do have to kind of blow you up like a balloon to be able to like get in there and do what they need to get done. So the only way to get the gas out of your system is by walking. So the first thing they had me do was walk. And then every time after, if I was ever in discomfort or if I was in pain or anything, I would walk. So the first like 2 days, I was actually out of bed walking more than I think I've ever walked in my entire life. When it wasn't raining, I would be walking outside, and I just walked everywhere because I was in so much, I'm not gonna say pain, but I was in so much discomfort, and I'm a little bit of a wimp when it comes to like pain or discomfort. I was a little baby the entire time. Anyways, that was just kind of my 6-month update, what I went through the day of, my VSG story, my weight loss story. I'm sorry if these videos like get off topic a lot. I have a really hard time like trying to condense everything that's like in my brain into like one video, because usually my mind just goes like 1,000 miles per hour. But if I missed anything, or if you guys have any questions, please let me know, comment down below. Please follow me on my Instagram. It is grande.finale. I'll have it linked below. Also my Snapchat, I'm gonna start posting, you know, like my meals and my workouts and stuff. So follow me there. And yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and come back to watch my next video. Thank you so much. Bye!